Tim Collins with Cullman today. I'm down with Suzanne Harbin. Suzanne, you're going to be running for Cullman City School Board, place number 5. You're a veteran, your experience at this will be your 4th term you're running for. Tell us your thoughts, your plans, what you've got in mind.
Well, Tim, I decided to run for one final term on the school board because I really feel like there's just one piece of unfinished business that I'm really passionate about and have been passionate about for about probably the last 4 or 5 years. When Dr. Patterson came on board with us last year full-time, that was our very first priority, and that is a strategic plan. I think if you listen to the mayoral election or mayoral forum a couple of weeks ago with the chamber, they talked a lot about you need a roadmap to move forward. And I think some people would argue that we've been very successful without a roadmap, and this is true, but we have some major things ahead of us with our schools. Including space, instructional technology, facilities, and those are things that I think strategic plan are essential to be able to move that forward and do it in a very structured way.
Well, I will say that the Cullman City School Board hasn't really had a roadmap, but there's also the philosopher that says wherever you go, there you are, and it's really turned out pretty well. Well, with that strategic plan in mind, let's break down 2 or 3 of those things real quick. Let's start with space. I've had several candidates talk to me about, we're getting bigger, we're running out of space for students. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting. About 10 years ago, Dr. Harris and the board at that time brought in a demographer. And he came in and we sat down with the city council at that time and discussed the population growth for the city of Cullman and where we needed to be in about 10 years. And believe it or not, he's almost dead on with the number of students we will have. We're off probably by about 100 students at this time. And so we know that the population is not growing in the city of Cullman, or really in the state of Alabama for that matter, but the city limits are expanding. And so with new industry coming in, we have to have a place for those individuals to live. And some of them are not going to live within the city limits, but yet they want their students to attend city schools. So we really have to look at the space issue and determine the best way to align our schools.
Well, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because there's a fine point in what you just said. I think there's a belief that our population is soaring. Not really true.
Mm-mm.
But who wants to get into the city schools is, right? I mean, that's a simpleton way of saying it.
That is correct.
Well, space is an issue. How do you fund that? And I ask that because when I go to the work sessions, watch you guys in action, school board meetings, you seem to be, not that other school board members aren't versed in this, but you are the answer woman when it comes to funding, grants, state money, federal money. It's like you have I don't know if it's a memorization, but you seem to have a huge grasp on that. Am I overstating that, or is that part of your role?
Well, I think I bring that role and that expertise to the board. I think that's been an asset that I have been able to contribute to the board and to the system, is that I do have a great deal of knowledge about grants and funding, not just locally but state and nationally, and I've used that to really support the board and support the schools in the in the areas that they need. And that really the whole purpose behind, or the whole focus behind that, is that that's my real job. That's my professional job at the college at Wallace State. I'm the director of advancement, and that's what I do for a living every day, is write and manage grants of all kinds.
I follow you. Now, when you started out this interview, you mentioned that this will be your last year. Let's assume you get reelected. What's the city school system going to do without you after it's done? You're done with your 4th term. I mean, you seem like you're a valuable cog in the system.
Well, I will say that I think, although I do feel like I've brought value to the school board and to the system, Dr. Patterson is a gifted grants writer as well. She's done several grants to fund software and curriculum for the school system, as well as Amy Bates, our technology coordinator. She and I have worked on some grants together, and they've submitted those successfully. And so I do feel like there's expertise within the system. And on the board, you know, I don't think that's essential to be on the board with that grants experience, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have that experience, especially because of the connections that I have within the state and local and even national projects and organizations.
Well, so you didn't say this, but I'm assuming over the next 4 years, assuming you're elected, you're going to move some of those contacts to people on the board and try to
Yes.
pass the baton, so to speak.
Absolutely, and that would be my greatest pleasure, would be to leave it better than when I found it, and be able to pass off that knowledge, and even almost a handbook of where you go, a calendar of where you look, because so many grants are on a certain cycle from year to year, so that they're always prepared and always ready to write and submit for the next big project or the biggest need in the system.
Gotcha. Well, let me ask you a couple of specific questions. First one is, you've been in the school system long enough to know it from the inside, the out, the good, the bad. Of all the things you can see and know about the city school system, what's our greatest strength? What do we really bring to the table that's powerful?
I don't know that it's one thing. I think of the secret sauce, so to speak, is our faculty. I could talk to you about faculty all day long, because there's just not enough great things to say about the faculty who teach our children every single day and who are with our children many times, often more than the parents are. But I think it's the secret sauce between our faculty, our staff, our support staff, our administrators, our parents, and our community. When I go to conferences across the state or in the Southeast, and I hear other school board members talk about their systems and their parents, I think they just don't have what we have in Cullman. And in Cullman City Schools, I feel like we just have something really special here.
Gotcha. Well, let me flip the switch over to the other side here. And I've talked to several people, and the topic of space and finding things is probably the biggest challenge that most people speak about. But beyond that, what would you say the greatest challenge facing Cullman City Schools are?
I really think space and instructional technology, maintaining our technology that we have now, plus being prepared for new technology, because as you know, technology changes from day to day even, and I think that'll be really important, that we'll need to sustain some funding and a plan for replacing technology that has become obsolete. But then I also feel like that there's an area that is important to me, which is extracurricular activities, and I feel like that what I want to do with our strategic plan, which is for the whole system at this point, is to take a component of that and develop an extracurriculars strategic plan that would include personnel, staffing, space, and facilities. I really believe that's needed, and so if we could do something better, I think that strategic plan for extracurriculars would be essential.
Now, not everyone knows what an extracurricular activity in a school system is. Can you briefly explain that so we know what you're talking about?
Yes. That would include, of course, all of our athletics. It also includes our band, art, music programs. It even includes our academic programs like Scholars Bowls, Math Team, those programs as well, and even new programs. This last year we had the archery team, which actually went all the way to the world competition and really did quite well. But we don't really have a plan in place for if we want to add a new sport or a new extracurricular. We don't have a plan in place for how we're going to do that. And we've added fishing club, and that's another new area. And so I can see that will grow, and that we need to have that in place to be able to support those.
Gotcha. One last question, though, and I'll let you go. This is a political campaign. You're running opposed. I don't want to get into the secret world of what you've got in mind, but people know who you are. Well, what are you going to bring fresh and new to attract voters, and what are you going to be doing out on the streets?
Well, I think what I really want people to know about me is that I am passionate about Cullman City Schools. I have been since I walked in the door as a first grader at West Elementary, and all my children have come to Cullman City Schools. My husband's a graduate, my dad's a graduate, and so that passion that I bring, I want to be able to share that with other people and let them know that the reason that I'm running and the reason I want to pursue this one more term is that, again, I want to leave it better than when I found it, and I want to be sure that there's a continuity and a consistency on the board, that they can really move things forward.
Gotcha. Suzanne, thanks so much for spending time with me. I appreciate your thoughts, insights. Best of luck on August 23rd.
Thank you so much.